Hello. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Truth and Freedom. The truth shall make you free. Today we will be discussing the non-aggression principle, and the first thing with regards to the non-aggression principle that I would like to discuss is force and violence. Now, force and violence are sometimes used interchangeably when in fact they are actually diametrically opposed. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to contrast the two. And what force is the capacity to do work or cause physical change. It's related to energy, strength, change, active power. Whereas violence is the immoral initiation of physical power to coerce, compel, or restrain. In other words, it's the coercive usage of force. The coercive usage of force is what violence is. Force, it's action which is in harmony with morality and natural law because it does not violate the rights of others. Whereas violence is coercive action which is in opposition to morality and natural law because it involves the violations of others' rights. Now, I discussed this in my last show, but I'm going to say it again. What is a right? A right is found through apophatic reasoning, or apophatically, which is retroductive reasoning by determining what something is by what it isn't. A right is anything that you can do that does not harm another sentient being. So, those are the force and violence. Now, force is an action which one always possesses the right to take, which includes the self-defense against violence, and violence is an action which one never possesses the right to take. So, violent action or violent engagement occurs when someone initiates violence. That's why all that matters. Here's the thing. When you get these teachers in elementary school that say it doesn't matter who started it, that's all that matters is who started it. And do you know how they say two wrongs don't make a right? When someone initiates violence, in other words, when someone infringes on another's rights, there's only one, and somebody else uses force to put down that violence, there's only one wrong. There's not two wrongs. There's one always reserves the right to use force to put down violent or aggressive behavior. So it always matters who starts it, and one always reserves the right to use force to put down aggressive behavior. Now, these days we're so imbalanced in the left brain that I wouldn't necessarily suggest doing it, but you have the right. You have the right. And this is difficult for people with this is difficult for people with left brain imbalance to acknowledge that if someone walking down the street does not like you or wants something of yours, they act on it. Do you have the right to use force? Of course, it's common sense. So if somebody, imagine a guy with a mask and a gun, you have the right to put him down with up to deadly force. If he's threatening your life to take away something of yours, then you absolutely have the right to put down his violence with force. And again, the two wrongs don't make a right. We've been conditioned for so long that responding with force equals violence. That's what we think, and it's just not true. Now, I'm all about nonviolence, but if you start something, I assure you I'll finish it. And as I used to say in hockey, when I played hockey, when one starts something with you that's aggressive and infringes on your rights, you always have the right to put that down. Period. And that's where we get the word violence and violation. Because when someone's violating you or violating your rights, they're engaging in violence. So there is a time and a place for force in a defensive capacity. So it's important to understand this because we can determine when something is right or wrong, whether it's the military, the police, or a family member. That's why it's important to understand the non-aggression principle, and within that principle, we have the right to use force, and we'll get to the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine with regard to that soon. But it's very important to understand this, and here's the thing. You can't grant a right to government or the police that you as an individual don't already possess. So each individually don't possess a right, then that right can't be granted to government or the police or anybody else. The police, just because they're in a uniform, they're not granted some special right or privilege that you don't already have. So that's one important thing to remember. If I don't have the right to break down your door and arrest you for using drugs, then neither does the police, because you can't grant a right to them that you don't already have. No one possesses the right to tell you what to put in your body. Therefore, you can't grant it to anybody else. Nobody, even as a collective, you don't have the right to do that as an individual, so you can't grant it to somebody else. And it's pretty simple, and it's the truth, regardless of what someone's erroneous perception is. And by the way, telling people what they can and cannot put in their body is slavery. They think somebody that tells you what you can and can't put in your body thinks they own you. And they don't. Nobody ever owns you, and nobody ever can tell you what to put in your body regardless of what anybody says. That is the objective truth. Now, enlightenment isn't always about not taking action, as the New Age movement would have you believe. Now, you know I believe we're going into the New Age, but I'm not big on the New Age movement. What enlightenment is, it means knowing what is going on around you and within you. It means knowing the true objective difference between right and wrong behavior, living it, and it means not aggressing upon others while not allowing yourself to be aggressed upon. So, being enlightened isn't just something that's passive. It has both a passive and an active aspect to it. So we're going to go to the two pillars of enlightenment, which is one is the sacred feminine, which is the non-aggressive principle. Respect the free will of others, no coercion. And we state the golden rule, which is do unto others as you would have them do to you. I like stating it apophatically or retroductively. I think it's stronger. Don't do to others what you would not want done to you. So that is the sacred feminine pillar. Now we go to the sacred masculine, which is the self-defense principle. Attempting to suppress states that all sentient beings have the right to use force. Now here's the problem. The state is attempting to suppress the fact that all sentient beings have the right to use force to defend themselves from violence conducted upon them from another. So you have the right to self-defense if someone's engaging in violence or aggressing upon you. There's not an enlightened being that does not grasp these two principles. If people understood these principles, we would not be in the situation we're in today. And these principles are true and always hold true despite the incorrect perceptions of someone with an imbalanced brain. And these laws, principles, and pillars hold true throughout the universe. And I'll be honest with you, the way we are right now, if the Founding Fathers could come back right now and see what they were doing, frankly, they would piss on us. They would piss on us because we just allow ourselves to be trampled on. You know, we just want to go along to get along. You know, we're worried about our money and stuff, and we could care less about freedom and rights. Ownership. The main reason that our species continues to experience a systematic and growing loss of freedom is because we collectively do not deeply understand ownership, and we continue to commit and can mostly condone theft. Ownership. To own something means that an individual has these three things: rightful possession, control of usage, and responsibility for it. And here's the thing, natural law can be boiled down to two words, and then I'm going to end here. And if anybody has any questions, always welcome to ask. But natural law and this whole section can be boiled down to two words: don't steal. Have a good one.